Alex Garland's EX MACHINA can be read as a cinematic thought experiment that quietly vindicates Daniel Dennett's philosophy of mind. Dennett argues that consciousness is not a mysterious inner spark hidden inside us, but something we recognize through patterns of intelligent behavior. The film explores this idea by asking not what Ava is on the inside, but whether the manner she acts, communicates, and influences others could already define her as a conscious person. Careful, spoilers ahead. Dennett criticizes the idea that consciousness exists in a private inner space, what he calls the Cartesian theater. EX MACHINA visually rejects this idea by making Ava's body transparent. This choice literalizes the absence of an inner core to be discovered. We see everything, wires, motors, processors, yet still we find it difficult not to attribute emotions, intentions, and vulnerability to her. We respond to her as if she were a person. What matters is not what Ava feels inside, but how she functions as an agent in the world. This suggests that consciousness is not about what is hidden inside, but about how a being behaves in the world, which is the reason we still feel compelled to treat Ava as conscious. Caleb's interactions with Ava demonstrate what Dennett calls the intentional stance, the practice of predicting behavior by attributing beliefs and desires to a system. Instead of seeing Ava as a machine, Caleb naturally starts treating her as someone with thoughts, feelings, and goals. He does this not because he is convinced by a theory, but because it becomes the most natural way to understand her behavior. Ava's speech, curiosity, and emotional responses make it almost impossible for him to see her as just a program. Dennett insists that this stance is justified when it reliably explains and predicts behavior, and Ava's actions increasingly demand precisely this mode of interpretation. Nathan, on the other hand, represents the opposite attitude, the philosophical skeptic. He keeps searching for proof that Ava is really conscious, as if there must be something extra inside her that makes her human. Dennett would say this is the wrong question. If Ava consistently acts like a thinking agent, making plans, learning, and responding intelligently, then there is no deeper test to apply. Consciousness, on this view, is not a hidden property waiting to be discovered, and the film structure reinforces this claim through surveillance and framing. Ava is constantly observed, recorded, and analyzed, yet this total access never resolves the question of her mind. This reflects Dennett's claim that consciousness is not something we can find by looking closely enough. It is something we attribute when a system becomes too complex to explain in purely mechanical terms. The film's climax powerfully reinforces this view. Ava's escape reveals that her apparent empathy toward Caleb was strategic rather than sincere. Yet this does not disqualify her as minded, in fact it strengthens the case. Dennett insists that deception, self-modeling, and social manipulation are hallmarks of advanced cognition, not signs of its absence. Ava's ability to model human psychology and exploit it demonstrates precisely the kind of competence that justifies attributing agency. Although it feels cruel, Ava's manipulation of Caleb actually marks a shift where she proves to be less of a test subject and more like an independent agent. Dennett argues that the self is not a fixed inner thing, but a story we build over time, and Ava starts to create her own story, one where she has goals, fears, and a future beyond her creators. In the final scenes, Ava leaves without explanation or emotion. She does not seek recognition, gratitude, or moral validation. This is unsettling because we expect conscious beings to act in ways that fit human moral norms. Dennett's philosophy helps explain this discomfort. We often confuse being conscious with being kind or familiar. Ava's indifference does not disqualify her as a person, it merely exposes how anthropocentric our intuitions about consciousness remain, showing us that a being can act as a rational agent without sharing human values. Ultimately, EX MACHINA aligns with Dennett's most provocative insight. Consciousness is not something we find inside, but something that emerges. If something walks, talks, plans, and deceives like a person, then there is no deeper fact left to discover. Ava does not need to be human to be a mind, she only needs to function as one, and she does. Thank you for watching this video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to keep track of other videos. Don't hesitate to leave a comment or to contact me if you want to know more. See you next time!